Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Timberborn PERMADEATH series. This is our series where we're trying to look at some new rules that we can create ourselves to create a hard mode on Timberborn. And I think the last couple of episodes have been in a bit of a limbo state. And that's because I think I've worked out the skill to have a certain amount of beavers and turn the birthing pods at the beginning of a drought, and they're going to pretty much make it through. And this one was a kind of learning lesson for me. This drought is about 70 days, and I was really worried when it first happened. And cut a long story short, this is the highlight episode. We get through it, and what that normally ends up happening is I have about 10 to 20 beavers left alive, not breaking any of the rules. They died of old age, but it's starting to become a bit stagnant. It's starting to become a bit easy, and that's not what this is about. So maybe a new rule that we need to look at for the permadeath is when I reach 10 cycles, maybe, that I am not allowed to turn the birthing pods off anymore when a drought comes on. And that's going to force a certain level of play, which is pretty exciting, and it will hopefully keep the excitement of this going a little bit more. When I do a new series of this, I am going to change the cycles of how long good water and how long droughts go on for, mainly because I think it's making very long episodes, and already I've kind of changed the style that I'm making these videos, where we do an hour of play on the long videos, and then I let it go, and I let them build to get to a drought, and that seems to be working at the moment. But we'll get more to that later. As I say, I'm new to all of this, and we're learning together. So let's get to this video. What is happening? Well, we're looking at the food district. You've probably just seen that I've just leveled the land and made a flat playing field so we can have effective crop growth. And now I'm doing a very painful math exercise. If you watch the long video of this, I just don't think my brain was actually on. I'm trying to count the blocks of water to see how it waters the land and create an irrigation ditch up here. So I've just counted 8 tiles. I'm putting in a path, and underneath that path I'm going to put a tunnel. This is a really efficient way of doing this. The beavers need pathways to get to the farms, and we need water to irrigate the land so the crops can grow. So we may as well use the path route for the tunnel route and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and have watering the crops, and also a network so the beavers can get to and from their jobs. And that's what I'm doing here. It was a very painful part of the video. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't watch it, which is a strange thing for me to say. But as I say, learning. Learning as we go here. So once that was laid out, we're going to look at what crops we're going to grow. And I haven't really explored the resource of crop growth on this game, and I don't normally play as this faction either. We have the food factories, and they obviously need to be supplied with food to keep them going, so it's efficient. I don't know how much to plant. I don't really know what that looks like. I normally just create large fields and ignore it because I'm more interested in the water. You know, this game, I was talking to some friends about this game the other day, and they were like, why do you play it so often? And I think it's when I think back to when I was a kid and played on the beach. And when you played on the beach, you didn't really care about wastewater or where it came from. And you always had those paths of water, and you dug channels in the sand, and you would create dams, and you would block them. I'd spend hours and hours doing that, and I think that's what this game is. So I don't really pay a lot of attention to crop growth. I'm more about diverting water. But anyway, enough of going back in time and reminiscing on that. Let's focus on the task at hand. That's the food district. I start to think about making my beavers' lives better. I mean, look, they've only got 4 happiness. It's pretty sad. they need diversification of food, they need scratching posts, they need entertainment, and I think I should focus on that a little bit more than I actually do. So, the tunnel. The name of this episode, the tunnel. On this game I build reservoirs. I think it's obvious that I do. But one thing on this one that's got me stumped, when the bad tide finishes and the drought finishes and the water returns to the land, we can only take water from that one point, the crater, which is what you're looking at right now. And I've set myself a bit of a task. Is it possible on day one to get water straight to reservoir 2 and reservoir 3 at the back, the mammoth construction that's happening? And I go backwards and forwards of how I could do that. I don't want to build it inside the dam. It's an easy thing to do because this was like my thought. I thought if I build a tunnel, as you can see here, that gets to a dam on day one, then I can create a pump which takes the water up at least 8 blocks and puts it into the reservoir to start filling the reservoir early. It takes about 25 days before it gets to the level to start filling reservoir 2. That is too long. On day one of water, we want every district to have it. Now, the game developers have made that water only do one level, but it will always do one level. There's an infinite amount of water if you can pump it out quick enough. So I thought if I build an underground tunnel on level 1 that goes from the crater to the reservoir, I can start pumping that out into reservoir 2. But I don't want to create it inside the reservoir because when it floods, it stops working. Now that's obvious, but I feel that's just a bit cringe. It's a bit cringe that you're doing something that you know will flood. If that was the real world and it flooded, it would rust, it wouldn't work for very long. And while this is a game, I like to try and pretend that there's some level of real world problem to it. So then I started working out, okay, if I build it outside and create a sluice and a flooding channel, that could work and actually be pretty cool. It would look pretty good when it's working. I'm pretty confident this is going to work. I don't want to say if it works. I'm pretty confident it will work. It will get water in, but it also might flood a lot of stuff as it goes. But that's kind of what I'm planning here. And that little block there, we're going to go all the way through it. So I'm just leveling it out. I've got the 3 dynamite that goes down to the underground tunnel and the 2 dynamite that goes into the reservoir to create a little pool for the water to go. And power is really easy because of all of the pumps on the top, which I'm going to address in a moment. So in fact, I'm going to address it right now. So that we're going to take the power from the 4 at the top. And as I say that, I've just seen a problem that I wanted to do in the future and increase the amount of pumps there. But we'll deal with that later. The only issue with doing this sort of work is I'm putting new holes in the side of the reservoir. And anyone that's watched any of the other videos, like the one I've just created there, anyone that watches any of the other videos knows I forget about them and it floods everywhere and just causes an absolute mess. So don't be surprised if you see a video titled The Great Flood Part 2 anytime soon. So now we're putting the sluice into the main reservoir. We're going to set that up to the top and build the pump, and then you will see the plan. It pumps all the way from the underground water source into reservoir 2. Now, hopefully, on day 1, when the water returns, we will start filling up reservoir 2, so we don't have to wait 27 days before it actually starts to fill. And that's in preparation for what I've just said. I'm almost 100% sure, probably about 92% sure, that we're going to ban birthing pods, turning them on and off. So now we're going to make a flood plane for this. When that reservoir reaches the height of the sluice gate will turn off, which will then flood, because I'm not turning that pump on and off. I want it to be autonomous, that once that reservoir fills and the pump is still pumping, it's just not going to flood that area. So we're going to create a drainage ditch on the other side. And then I saw a different problem. There is the food district. I want the food district to get water from day one as well. And at the moment, this reservoir has to fill over halfway before water gets to the food district. So I'm going to it's more important that the food district gets water than this reservoir in the first beginning of the days. And the food district only has a height of 80 before the sluice stops. So it'll be very quick to fill up that area outside. And then once that sluice stops, it will start to overflow and fill the reservoir. So I'm working out creating an internal reservoir drainage ditch is what we'll call it. I'll think of a better name in the future. But the idea is the water from day one drains in, goes down that path, then goes into food district, gets to there. Once it gets to there, it will come back and then it will fill to 80. That sluice will stop and then it will overflow and start to fill reservoir 2. Once that one outside fills and stops, it will flood into food district, but then the floodgate at the end of food district will let the water flow out. That was a lot. It was a very long description. There's a much better version of that description on the long video. Please check it out if you want to spend an hour just watching me torture myself on this game. And that's the end of this episode. We have a lot to do. There are new rules that I want to put into play. This is a permadeath series, not just build a ridiculous colony series. And we're going to ramp it up. We're going to make it a little bit more difficult. And we will see how we go. I'm actually quite disappointed if I lose to not see all this stuff get built. But until that happens, take care of yourselves. And I'll see you in the next one.